So good morning, all. I welcome you to the day 5 of this faculty development program. This is a very auspicious day today. I wish each and everyone happy Independence Day. And on this day, we, as a scientist, as a researcher, as a faculty member, uh, we should be taking a pledge that we will contribute to our country's science and technology. So there is a big role and there are big expectations from all of us that we will be supporting our country with our science and technology. And our faculty development program is also devoted to the recent innovations so that we can help our country, our nation, our people. So on this auspicious day, we have Dr. A. Palavesam, who is the professor and head, Department of Animal Sciences, and also the Dean, College Development Council at Manonmaniam Sundaranar University, Tirunelveli. So today he will be delivering a talk on fish gut microbes and their probiotic functions. So, as you all know that microbes are playing a significant role in our day-to-day life, and they are increasingly gaining importance, especially in this phase of the time, like when we see a microbe has totally shaken the whole world. So, I'll just briefly introduce Dr. Palavesam. So, Dr. A. Palavesam is working as professor and head, Department of Animal Sciences. Maniam Sundaranara University, Tirunelveli. He completed his PhD degree in animal physiology at Madurai Kamraj University, Madurai. During 1992, he joined CSIR as a research associate at Center for Marine Science and Technology, CMST, formerly Institute for Artemia Research Center. And in April 1995, he has joined assistant professor in the same department. He has also served as professor and head in CMST during the period from 2009 to March 2014. He has also served as principal in charge in the Manonmayam Sundaranar University, Constituent College, Kanyakumari during the academic year 2012 and 2013. In addition to his academic activity, at present, Dr. Palavesam is working as Dean, College Development Council, Manon Maniam Sundaranar University. Dr. Palavesam pursuing his research in the area of aquatic microbiology, fish physiology, fish ecophysiology, nutritional biochemistry, fermentation technology, and probiotics. For the past 31, so far he has guided 31 students under him for completing their PhD work. Also, more than 100 MPhil students have completed their work under his guidance. To his credentials, Dr. Palavesam has published 172 number of research articles in peer-reviewed international and national journals. In this regard, he has acquired the Scopus H index of 18 and cumulative impact factor of 139.2. Sir, I really congratulate you for having such a high impact factor H index. And his total citations are more than 1,000, that is 1205. Uh, so Dr. Palavesam has also served as a member of syndicate in Manon Maniam Sundaranar University. He was bestowed with the Academic Excellence Award by Sundranar University in 2012. Also, he was the UGC BSR one-time grant awardee in 2014. He's also the recipient of P.K. Das Memorial Best Faculty Award in 2013, Tamil Nadu Senior Scientist Award in 2016. He has also received citation and recognition award from the Society for Advancement of Biological Sciences, Bangalore during 2016, and UNESCO Biotechnology Fellowship Award in 2002. As principal investigator, Dr. Palavesam has completed 6 major research projects and 12 consultancy projects funded by Ministry of Environmental Sciences, DOD, DBT, DST, DRDO, UGC, and other government and private agencies in this trust area of his research. Over and above, through extension activity, he is actively involved in imparting training on seaweed cultivation to the unemployed coastal community to earn additional income with the financial support from Department of Rural Development and Authority, Kanyakumari, and Tsunami Emergency Assistance Program, TEAP, Government of Tamil Nadu. Sir, am really impressed, and I think most of the participants must be really impressed by your achievements. The scientific credentials that you have is tremendous, and we are very lucky to have you today with us for your talk, sir. I hand over to you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Pallavisam.
Yes, sir, please. Also. Yes, sir. Shall I start, sir?
Yeah, please, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir. We can see your
yeah,
presentation.
yeah, yeah. This my slide is visible, sir.
Uh,
Hello.
just a moment, sir. Yeah. Yeah, your slides are visible. Please carry on, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, at the outset, I would like to wish all the participants and also the organizers a happy Independence Day. And also, at the outset, I would like to extend my sincere thanks for the organizer for giving me an opportunities to come and speak to you all and share my experience in my area of research. And I also extend my sincere thanks for the nice introduction, sir. Thank you all. Let us start my presentation. Today, the topic of my presentation is fish gut microbial diversity and its probiotic function. Everybody knows that what is the significance of fish, and because of its high nutritional value, and also its employment opportunities as well as the foreign exchange, fish in the sense aquaculture is gaining momentous importance. And that is why research related to fish and fisheries activities is also gaining importance. And scientists all over the world are involving in research in the area of fish and fisheries for its sustainable production of fishes and to nourish the undernourished population as well as to earn foreign exchange. Today, my topic is fish gut microbial diversity and its probiotic function. To begin with, I will give you a brief introduction and what is the significance and what is the importance of this topic as far as fisheries and aquaculture is concerned. As we are all aware that fish originated over 600 million years ago and occupied nearly half of all vertebrate species by comprising a large diversity of approximately 28,000 species. Hence, fish as a model organism can provide insight into both functional and dysfunction of host organisms through acquiring in-depth knowledge on structure and functions of gut microbes. Thus, fish represents as an important group for understanding the variety. Furthermore, the gastrointestinal tract of fish receives water from food and there and these food as well as the water are populated with microorganisms from the surrounding environment. These microbes undoubtedly affect the resident microbiota and also interfere with the physiological and metabolic process of the host system. Hence, correlation between changes in the composition and diversity and also the activity of that microbiota with this physiology and disease have been proposed. Viewing the above significant community all over the world, scientific community all over the world, focus their attention on unrevealing the diversity and symbiotic relationship of that microbiota in the host system. This resulted in emerging the new area of research that too in probiotics. Now, what is gut microbiome? Technically, we speaking about gut microbiome. These are all resident microbes which are successfully colonized in the gastrointestinal region, either from immediate external environment or through food are called microbiomes or gut microbiota. And these gut microbiota playing a significant role. In my first lecture, in the first part of my lecture, I am going to highlight that what we have achieved in our laboratory and related to the gut microbial diversity. And our research team undertook in-depth research in the area of gut microbial diversity of estuarine fishes. And now I am going to show how the microbial diversity is varied from one species to another species, and how their enzymatic distribution is also varied. First, what now you are seeing is the total heterotrophic bacterial composition in the gut of shrimp Penaeus monodon. Here, nearly about 11 culturable species are recorded. Out of 11 culturable bacterial species, Pseudomonas, Enterobacter, and Bacillus are the dominating bacterial population. And in the case of Mugilcephalus, and here also again 11 cultivable bacterial species are recorded. And here if you see the dominant species, Pseudomonas, Enterobacter, and Bacillus were the dominant species. And another one here, Heteropilus rotensis, popularly we are calling it as a carimine in majority of the local area. And here also nearly about 11 different species of bacterial species were recorded, and out of which Escherichia coli, Pseudomonas, and Bacillus species were dominated in the gastrointestinal environment of Heteropilus rotensis. And then total heterotrophic bacterial composition of the gut of fish Mystis guleo. In Mystis guleo, nearly about 12 bacterial species were recorded. Out of these 12 bacterial species, Pseudomonas is the dominant one, and their percentage occurrence is nearly about 21%. Next to Pseudomonas, Pseudomonas fluorescens is also equally dominated, and its percentage is nearly about 17%. And next to this, Vibrio is also a dominating species in the gastrointestinal environment of Mystis guleo. And then this is the heterotrophic bacterial population of in the gut of fish Ambasis. In Ambasis, nearly about 12 bacterial species were recorded, out of which Staphylococcus is the dominant species. It is representing nearly about 17% of the total population. Next to this, Proteus is the dominating one, and its percentage occurrence is nearly 13%. And third one is the Pseudomonas, and its percentage occurrence is nearly about 13%. Here in this species, Staphylococcus, Proteus, and Pseudomonas are the dominant species among the 12 culturable species recorded. And when apart from this, there's a variation in the composition, and we want to find out whether is there any variation in distribution of enzymatic bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment of the tested species, Heteropilus rotensis, Mugilcephalus, Penaeus monodon, Mystis guleo, Ureochrombis mozambicus, and Ambasis. And the results indicated that when we look upon the distribution of aminolytic bacterial population, this aminolytic bacterial population was high in Mystis guleo, and next to this Mystis guleo, Heteropilus rotensis harbored maximum number of aminolytic bacterial population. Its percentage was 30%, and the third position is occupied by the shrimp Penaeus monodon with a percentage occurrence of 24.6%. This is the distribution of aminolytic microbial population. The lowest aminolytic microbial population was recorded in a gut of Ambasis, and the ratio is 16.6%. And when we see about the distribution of proteolytic bacterial population, the proteolytic bacterial population was 66% in both Mystis guleo and Ambasis, and both the species are sharing the highest ratio of proteolytic microbes in the gastrointestinal environment. Next to this species, Penaeus monodon, shrimp Penaeus monodon is harbored with 58.2% of proteolytic bacterial population, and third comes Mugilcephalus, occupied by 50.4%. The lowest percentage of proteolytic bacterial population was recorded in Heteropilus rotensis, that is only 10%. And next is the lipolytic microbial population. If you see the diversity of lipolytic bacterial population, Its range is from 10 to 83.3% variation. The lowest is recorded in the Heteroplex rotensis, and the highest is recorded in Mugilcephalus as well as the Mystis gulio. And in Oreochrombis mozambicus, and its representation is nearly about 33.3%. And here you can see the entire altogether, if you take consideration of all these enzymatic bacterial population, the highest enzymatic bacterial population is harbored in Ambasis species, and next to these Ambasis, Mystis gulio as well as Mugilcephalus occupied respectively second and third position, and also Oreochrombis mozambicus is also occupied third position, and fourth position goes to shrimps, and last one is Heteroplex rotensis. And if you see the diversity of microbial population and also the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population, there is a vast variation between the species which we have studied. And what is the reason and why this variation? I am going to answer this in the ensuing slides. And further, and if you see this is the data of Das et al. They have reported in the year 2014 the distribution of aminolytic, cellulolytic, proteolytic, and lipolytic bacterial population in the proximal, middle, and distal intestine. In the previous slides, I have not considered any variations in the gastrointestinal environment, and I have taken as a whole. But here, Das et al., they have divided this gastrointestinal environment into three major portions, and they have also studied the variation in total heterotrophic bacterial population and also the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population in the proximal, middle, and distal regions of gastrointestinal environment. And if you see that there is only a marginal increase in the distribution of all the enzymatic bacterial population in the distal intestine when compared to that of the proximal intestine. And here the distribution of aminolytic, chitinolytic, proteolytic, and lipolytic bacterial population was 5.7, 6.06, 5.12, and 5.87 in the distal region, and it is a minimal increase when compared to that of the proximal as well as the middle intestine. The same author, they also reported the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population in the different regions of the gastrointestinal environment. Here also we could be able to see that the diversity of enzymatic bacterial population and also the total bacterial population, and there is a minimal increase. There is only a marginal increase in the enzymatic bacterial population in the distal intestine when compared to that of the proximal intestine. And in the case of the species Mystis gulio, and here in the distribution of bacterial population, total bacterial population was relatively little bit high in middle as well as the distal intestine when compared to that of the proximal intestine. As far as enzymatic bacterial population is concerned, and this enzymatic bacterial population showed an uniform distribution with very minimal, insignificant variation when compared to in the earlier cases. There is a marginal increase in the distal intestine when compared to that of the middle as well as the proximal intestine. However, in Mystis gulio, and there is no significant variation between the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population in the different regions of the gastrointestinal environment. However, the total heterotrophic bacterial population was marginally high in middle as well as the distal intestine. The same trend here in Heteroplex rotensis, according to Das et al. In the year 2014, here also the total bacterial population in the distal intestine was marginally high, and when we viewed the data pertaining to enzymatic bacterial population, there is no significant difference between the proximal, middle, and distal intestine in the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population. Here, in the previous part, I showed you that when we compare the whole intestinal environment, there is a variation in distribution of proteolytic, aminolytic, and chitinolytic microorganisms. Here, according to Das et al., in between the proximal, distal, as well as the middle intestinal region, and there is a marginal variation in the total heterotrophic bacterial population as well as the enzymatic bacterial population, and that too, that is varied between depending upon the species what we are studying. And here another one important factors that influences the total heterotrophic bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment is seasonal variation. Based upon the seasonal variation, the diversity of microbial population in the immediate environment is also showed fluctuation. That fluctuation is also affecting the distribution of bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment. Here, according to Al-Harbi and Udin in the year 2005, they reported that between summer, autumn, and winter season, in autumn season, and this fish species, this is a hybrid variety of Oreochrampis aries and Oreochrampis niloticus. This hybrid Oreochrampis species harbored maximum number of bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment during autumn seasons. And here, when you see the distribution of bacterial population in the freshwater fish, Catla, it was also reported that Roy et al. In the year 2010, there is a variation in distribution of total heterotrophic bacterial population and also the enzymatic bacterial population in the proximal as well as the distal intestine. Here, in contradict to what we have studied in the earlier cases, there is a linear increase in the total heterotrophic bacterial population starting from proximal, middle, and distal intestine, whereas according to Roy et al., and here in the distal intestine, the total heterotrophic bacterial population is very less when compared to that of the proximal intestine. Here again, if you see the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population, here this enzymatic bacterial population is high in the both proximal as well as the distal intestine, and it's also varied according to their that is enzymatic nature. Protease producing bacterial population was 69% in the proximal region, whereas it was very high in the distal intestine. When compared to in overall view indicated that amylase producing bacterial population as well as the protease producing bacterial population was very high in the distal region when compared to that of the proximal region. This is according to Roy et al. In the year 2010. The same author in Sirganus myrgala, this is a proximal as well as the distal intestine. Here, the total heterotrophic bacterial population was high in the distal intestine when compared to that of the proximal intestine, and the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population, that is cellulase, amylase, and protease producing bacterial population was relatively high in the distal intestine when compared to that of the proximal intestine. In the case of Labiorhoeita, here the amylase producing bacterial population was high in the proximal intestine, whereas the protease as well as the cellulase producing bacterial population was high in the distal intestine. And here also the total heterotrophic bacterial population was high in the distal intestine when compared to that of the proximal intestine. And why this variation in the distribution of enzymatic bacterial population in the Asia total gastrointestinal environment or in various parts of the gastrointestinal environment? There exists a variation in the distribution of total heterotrophic bacterial population as well as the enzymatic bacterial population. And what is the reason? The reason is attributed to the variation in the feeding behavior of the fish species what we are studying, and also the variation in the distribution of the bacterial population in the immediate environment, and also the seasonal fluctuations occurred in the immediate environment, and also the availability of food and also the feeding habitat of the fishes playing a significant role in not only in harboring the bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment, but also their enzymatic activity. And if you see the bacterial population in herbivorous species again, and even within the herbivorous organisms, there exists a wide variation in the dominant bacterial population. As far as herbivorous fish, butterfish is concerned, Clostridium is dominated, and the parrot fish and Vibrio and Photobacterium are the dominating bacterial population. In the Sturgeon fish, that is bacteriotides and proteobacteria and Firmicutes, and these are all the dominant bacterial population. And G. prophy's, there's a Enterovibrio, bacterioids, and T. sulfovibrio, and Bacillibacterium. These are all the dominant species. Now, again, not only this feeding behavior of the fishes, even within the same feeding behavior of fishes, for instance, herbivorous fishes, and there is variation in the distribution of the bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment. It indicated that in addition to their feeding habitat, availability of food and environmental variations, seasonal variation, and also fluctuation in the bacterial population in the immediate environment, those factors playing an important role in harboring the bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment and also within the various regions of the gastrointestinal environment. And not only it is controlling their population, and it is also controlling there's a metabolic process like enzymatic activity. And in the case of omnivorous fish, pinfish as well as the long-jawed mudsucker, and here also you could be able to find out that there's entirely the dominant bacterial population is entirely different between the even within the omnivorous species, and even in the carnivorous species also we can able to find out that there is a wide variation in the distribution of dominant species. The overall study inferred that in addition to the feeding behavior of the fishes and the environmental factors and also availability of food materials and also the seasonal variations playing an important role in harboring of microbes in the gastrointestinal environment and also the regulation of their enzyme activity and various vital activities. And if you see the nature of this herbivorous intestine, this morphological variations in the intestine. If you see the herbivorous intestine, in the herbivorous gastrointestinal, in the herbivorous fishes, the gastrointestinal environment is very long because it will take longer time to digest and absorb the food materials which are present in the plant-based food materials. Whereas in the case of this intestine is usually very long in herbivorous and tetrativore, and this plant food absorbs relatively in a slow manner so as to compensate this natural phenomena. And this species having the very long gastrointestinal environment. In the case of carnivorous fishes, the fish intestine is usually very short, and also the animal food materials are digested at a faster level. Therefore, the food material need not stay in the gastrointestinal environment for a longer time, and within the started duration, the digestion and absorptions and all the metabolic process will be completed in a shorter duration, and henceforth, and it is related with that of the morphological characteristic of the gastrointestinal environment. And here, not only the morphological characteristic of this gastrointestinal environment, and these digestive organs, various digestive organs, such as it starts from mouth, esophagus, stomach, pyloric ceca, midgut, hindgut, gallbladder, and gizzard. And this in certain species, some of the digestive organs may or may not be present. And the presence of various digestive organs is also playing a significant role in harboring the microbes from the external environment as well as through the food material. And literature pertain to this specific issue, that is, this presence or absence of various digestive organs and its influence of the gastrointestinal environment is very much wondered. Therefore, here another one important factors I already mentioned here is the food. How the food playing an important role in harboring various groups of microbes based upon the availability of the food as well as the feeding habitat. The microbial distribution is also varied. Here in the topmost picture, you could be able to find that the fish is consuming a single diet, only one diet, and in the middle, the fish is consuming a multiple diet. In the bottom also, this fish consuming a single diet. Here, a fish consuming food with a single diet as a unique nature is obviously expected to harbor more number of bacterial population and more diversity of bacterial population. However, on contradict to this, fish consumed nearly about the multiple food materials are feeding on more number of species, and they could be able to harbor only a limited number or one or two microbial population. And they want, through this experiment, they inferred that the food materials are the components which are present in the food materials of more than one species, and they interfere with the distribution occurrence and also further proliferation of this particular bacterial population. Therefore, fishes feeding on variety of food materials are expected to harbor only a limited number of bacterial population. This is not only related to its feeding behavior and also the environmental variation, it is also related to the constituent of food materials or component of the food material on which the fishes are feeding. That also playing an important role on the distribution of bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment. And here, there's a total heterotrophic bacterial population in the Oreochramis mozambicus, the same species, and these species were collected from two different environments. And as per our record, we have collected the fishes from the estuarine environment from Kanyakumari district, and we recorded that Pseudomonas vibrio and Pseudomonas fluorescens are the dominant species. And the next, Al-Habi and Udin in the year 2005, they studied the same Heteroplus rotensis, and they found out that Vibrio parahemolyticus, Vibrio alginolyticus, and Streptococcus are the dominant species. And within the same species, and which are distributed in the varied geographical regions, are also expected to harbor in different variety or diverse variety of bacterial population in the gastrointestinal environment. Overall, through this various slides I have shown to you, I want to give emphasis on the factors such as feeding behavior of the fish and species of the fish, and also the environmental factors, immediate environmental factors, that is factors, and also the seasonal variation, and also the geographical variation of the fish species in which they are inhabiting. And these are all the various factors that control the distribution and diversity of gastrointestinal environment and also their enzymatic functions in the gastrointestinal environment. Now, I want to study out what is the role played by this gastrointestinal environment. And immediately after the hatching, the fish will start feeding on the natural food materials available in that environment. And while the entry of the microorganism through its first feeding determines the fate of those particular organisms, and if the beneficial organism is enter into the gastrointestinal environment through its first feeding time, and it will affect the host in a positive way and help them to lead a happy life and to produce more biomass, and as well as they can proliferate and in a faster rate. And therefore, and the beneficial microorganisms are the microorganism which is having symbiotic relationship with the host system, and also, in other words, we can also call it as a microorganism which are helping the host system to lead a happy life, and those microorganisms are called beneficial microorganism. This beneficial microorganism is controlling all the vital physiological and other metabolic process of the organisms, and thereby it is controlling the growth as well as the other vital biochemical processes, and also the that there's a reproduction status as well as the further proliferation of that particular species. Therefore, from this distribution and studying from this study, and also distribution of various enzymatic bacterial populations, and scientists all over the world try to find out the microbes which are beneficially affecting the host system, and they start studying on that. The particular study, we are technically calling it as the probiotic microbes. And as far as World Health Organization is concerned, probiotics are defined as the live microbes which, when administered in adequate amount, confer the beneficial health effect to the host system. That is called probiotic microorganism. These probiotic microorganisms are nothing but the beneficial microorganism which are successfully colonized in the gastrointestinal environment of the fishes, and that too they have to positively affect the host system. Such microbes are studying such type of microbes, and their activities in the host system is called probiotic study. And here there are certain characteristic features we have to consider before selecting a particular microorganisms as a probiotic microorganisms. And there are nearly about 11 characteristic features, and the microbe should express almost all these characteristic features, and then only we can able to use these particular microbes as a probiotic microbes. Then it's non-pathogenic, non-toxicity, resistant to gastric acid, adherence to epithelial tissues, produce antibacterial substances. It should persist at least for a shorter duration in the gastrointestinal environment, able to resist the antibacterial mechanism which is prevalent in the gastrointestinal environment, needed to avoid the effect of peristaltic movement, resistant to bile acids, amenable for larger scale protection, and able to maintain and stable for a longer duration. And these are all the 11 characteristic features one microbes is expected to have. Then only we can able to use it as a probiotic microorganisms or beneficial microorganisms. And in the probiotic microorganism or beneficial microorganism, which are successfully colonized in the gastrointestinal environment, they are performing various functions by producing various type of metabolites, and those metabolites they are producing antimicrobial compounds, and these antimicrobial compounds responsible for elimination of the pathogenic microorganism either inside the host system or in the host environment. And they are also producing various types of enzymes, and we are all aware that what is the role of enzyme in the living system: protease, amylase, cellulase, lipase, chitinase, and so on and so forth. These enzymes are involving in the digestion process, not only in the digestion process, and also inhibiting the other various harmful metabolites which are entering into the host system. And they are also producing the surfactant, surfactants, and rhamnolipids and regulolipids, and they are all the various surfactants, and they are also responsible for degradation of this contaminants, and also they are producing amino acids, vitamin, minerals, and short chain fatty acids. And these components are responsible for the acceleration of the immune modulation and various vital physiological activities. And therefore, the gastrointestinal microorganisms, which are considered as the probiotic microorganisms, and they will act on various way or various modes, and through the various mode of action, they exert beneficial effect on the host system. And here the mode of action, what are the mode of actions? These slides will simply explain you, and what are the possible modes through which the gastrointestinal environment or beneficial microbial bacteria, technically we are calling it as the probiotic bacteria, exert a beneficial effect to the host system. When it is entering through the feed to the fish, and it confer the healthy effect to the fishes, it improve gut microbiota, enhance the growth, improve digestion, and improve the immune modulation or immunity in the fishes. And this probiotic bacteria, when it is entering into the host system, as well as the in vitro as well as the in vivo condition, it is acting, it is giving an antagonistic, synthesizing antagonistic compounds. The various antagonistic compounds are antibacterial, antiviral, antivirulence, antipyobilin, pseudophores, and inhibiting quorum sensing. And these are all the antagonistic compounds produced by the probiotic bacteria, and through which it is fighting against the pathogenic microorganisms. And when it is in the environment, in the external environment, these probiotic bacteria are also playing an important role in maintaining the water and soil quality parameters. And if an organism fails to acquire or consume the probiotic bacteria, and the resultant is the susceptibility to the disease. And here there's a general mechanism of action of probiotic microorganisms. The first and foremost mechanism is competitive exclusion. When the probiotic microorganism is outreach the pathogenic bacterial population, it will give tough competition to the pathogenic microorganism in the gastrointestinal environment for food as well as the space, and in due course the pathogen will eliminate it from that particular environment. Second one is competition for nutrient. And this when the probiotic bacteria are at a larger level, and it will give tough competition for the nutrients, and the nutrient will be depleted in a shorter duration, and it is not available for the pathogenic organisms for their food, and in due course the pathogen will eliminated from that environment. And third one is production of inhibitory substances like bacteriocin, lysosome, and antimicrobial substances. These antimicrobial substances interferes with the pathogenic microorganisms, and it stops the proliferation. This is the various mode of action. The last one is this probiotic bacteria playing an important role in improving the immune modulation in species. Particularly, the probiotic bacteria is actively involving in the this macrophages activity. And then this here the graphic representation of production of short chain fatty acids and the gut microbiota, and when it is entering into the gastrointestinal environment, it is involving in the fermentation process, and the fermentation process, as a result, it is giving short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids are investigating the potential beneficial functions of this short chain fatty acid in fishes. It is anti-inflammatory, and it is playing an important role in the, as a nutrient for the proliferation of covalent cells, and it is also playing an important role in the permeability of the cell wall membranes, and by accelerating the expression of tight junction protein, and also at the gene level expression of various proteins which is responsible for the cell permeability in the gastrointestinal environment, through which it avoids the entry of unwanted materials into the cells. Therefore, the short chain production of short chain fatty acids by the beneficial microorganism in the gastrointestinal environment is considered as the more important beneficial effect, and that helps the host system in various ways by improving the intestinal environment, and also it involving its permeability, and also it is also involving in the anti-inflammation activity. And now here the gut microbiota, this green cycle, releases the various metabolites in response to the substrate present in the gastrointestinal environment. These metabolites locally stimulate the endocrine cells in the blue circle. This is the GI tract of endocrine cells, and it releases the peptides responsible for stimulation of the brain activities and alter the brain peptide release, and that will stimulate the various feeding behavior, alter the food intake, and it is also the altered various biochemical metabolisms. Here, the circle, it stimulates the endocrine cell release gut peptides which locally in the gastrointestinal tract and affect the brain feeding center, and altering the neuropeptide release and modifying the feeding behavior, and also the energy homeostasis in the host system. Therefore, this gut microbiota playing an important role even in the functions of the brain, and by stimulating the particular peptide, and it is involving or interfering with the feeding behavior, and also the alter the food intake, and thereby it is affecting the metabolism of the fishes. Therefore, by various ways and means, this gastrointestinal microflora playing an important role as the probiotic microbes, and confers the beneficial effect to the host system for their sustainable growth and also for the sustainable development. This is a pictorial representation of antagonistic activities, and when the probiotic bacteria is outreach the pathogenic bacteria, and it will produce the substances, and that will inhibit the further proliferation of the pathogenic microorganism. This is the competitive exclusion. I have already explained for food as well as the phase how these microbes playing an important role in the competitive exclusion. And here the pink box indicated the pathogenic bacteria, and the green with the line, it is called probiotic bacteria. When the probiotic bacteria is in the larger number, it won't allow the space for in the gastrointestinal environment for the pathogen to colonize. The lower panel is the probiotic condition. The upper panel is the non-probiotic condition. And from these figure, and you can easily visualize or you can easily differentiate and what is the significant role played by these probiotic microorganisms in excluding the pathogenic microorganism from that particular host system by competitive exclusion. and it is also playing an important role in stimulation of immune activities, and it is involving both in specific as well as the non-specific immune system. And how this slides I am giving you a overall picture how we can screen gastrointestinal microbes into a probiotic microbes. First one is acquisition of bacterial microorganisms from the host system. Then in vitro, in vivo evaluation inside the host system. In vitro evaluation is outside the host system. And also, if we are having satisfied effect as a non-pathogenic effect, and we can use it for further experimentation. If it shows any pathogenic effect, and we can reject that one. In vitro screening also production of inhibitory substances and competitive exclusion, and also the other metabolite production, we can screen it, and if we are satisfied, and we can go it for the we can go it for the experimental challenges, and after experimental challenges we can use it as a beneficial probiotic microorganism. Here there's a production of antimicrobial substances, and we can use by using the conventional methods, various methods, and we can easily screen the production of antimicrobial substances by means of the agar-well diffusion methods. And also more recently, Dosso et al. In the year 1988, they have defined a new methodology for the double-layer screening method to find out the antagonistic activities of the beneficial microorganism against the pathogenic microorganisms. And here the antagonistic effect of this bacterial microorganism, which we have isolated from the gastrointestinal environment of Shrimp spinaeus monodon, and we have isolated nearly 5 different microorganisms. And from this figure, and you can easily visualize that bacterial species number 5, it is showing more antagonistic activities against Aeromonas hydrophila and as well as the E. coli. And here double-layer screening method. Here also, there's a bacterial species 5, MSC5 showed antagonistic activities against Aeromonas hydrophila as well as the Staphylococcus aureus is a pathogenic microorganism. And by doing either agar-well diffusion or double-layer screening, and we can find out the characteristic of these probiotic bacteria. And we can also go for screening of protease, amylase, cellulase, lipase, and all whatever the enzymes they can able to produce, we can screen that particular enzymes. And we can also go for the optimization of enzyme production if we are satisfied with the enzyme level. And in the particular species, what we have screened is MSC5, amylase, protease, and phytase, and lipase. This particular species is capable of producing all the enzyme at the equal level. And this is the overall schematic representation how we have screened this probiotic microorganism. After that, we have also optimized this screened probiotic microorganism through optimization process for the large scale production. And this is a schematic representation of how we can produce a large scale, we can produce a probiotic on the large scale. And after that, and you produce the 2 different types of probiotics, and the probiotic in the 2 different forms. In 2 different forms, we have tested it in the in vitro, that is in laboratory as well as in the outdoor culture environment. And immediately after entering into the gastrointestinal environment, there are 3 different components. They are playing an important role: biotic, abiotic, and endogenous components. And all these components, they will act upon these probiotic microorganisms which are entering into the host system. And if the probiotic is succeeded in overcoming all these components, and it can perform well in the gastrointestinal environment. This is a graphic representation of this biotic and abiotic factors in the upper panel, and how it is entering into the host system, and what is the functions it is performing, changes in the composition, changes in the microbial metabolism, changes in the gene expression level. It is playing an important role after entering into the host system, and it is producing the vital component, and those components are responsible for even triggering the that is the expression of particular genes which is responsible for. I already cited one is nearly about short chain fatty acids, and they are playing an important role in regulating the tight junction protein genes. Thereby, the permeability of the gastrointestinal environment is being regulated. And both the intrinsic and extrinsic factors, various intrinsic and extrinsic factors, and those factors are responsible for the successful colonization of probiotic bacterium in the gastrointestinal environment. And where after entering into that, what is the important function is suppression of reactions which resulted in the generation of toxic materials. by stimulating the enzyme reactions involved in detoxification of potentially toxic substances, by stimulating the enzymes involved in the gastrointestinal environment, that is in the digestion of complex food material, by synthesizing various vitamins, minerals, and certain fatty acids. And through these production of these components, it is involving in the various metabolic activities and confer the beneficial effect to the whole system. This is the overall the flow chart and how we have prepared the probiotic microorganisms. After colonization and large scale production, we have prepared two different products. There's a low cost product and a lyophilized powder. And the MSU5, I already explained in my previous slide. The MSU5 and through 16-rRNA sequencing, we have confirmed that it is a Bacillus cereus through 16-rRNA sequencing. This Bacillus cereus species, and we have optimized and large cultured, and we have formulated a probiotic product in two different forms, lyophilized form as well as the low-cost probiotic product, and we have tested that one. This lyophilized probiotic powder showed nearly about 20% increase in the SGR and 35% increase in the FCR. The low-cost probiotic product, it's also showed 10%, 9% increase in the SGR, nearly about 30% increase in the FCR value. Here, the increase in the FCR, in the sense, FCR is nothing but the feed conversion ratio, and this feed conversion ratio is an important is an important key parameter that determines the efficiency of the diet. It not only determines the efficiency of the diet, it is also an indicator of how the consumed food is digested at a faster level and it is being assimilated by the organisms. If the FCR value is very low, the digestion is poor and only a relatively lesser amount of nutrients are assimilated by the organism. Rest of these are eliminated into the external environment as the undigested food material. Therefore, FCR is an important key factor that determine the efficiency of the diet, and if the efficiency of the diet is higher, and we will get maximum product, but at the same time we will get a lesser accumulation of waste into that environment. Therefore, all the scientists involving in research in the aquaculture, and they are aiming at enhancing the FCR value, in the sense they want to get the better FCR value. Therefore, this probiotic product is accelerating FCR at a higher level or in a better way, thereby it is enhancing the efficiency of the diet, but at the same time it is contributing the less accumulation of undigested food material into the environment. And currently we are doing research on effect of probiotic bacteria on detoxification of toxic material which is entering into the gastrointestinal environment. For that we did experimentation on cadmium. We added cadmium, low concentration of cadmium along with the feed, and that was given to this organism for a period of 21 days. And after that, we found out that you could be able to visualize this damage in the gastrointestinal epithelial cell wall due to the administration of cadmium after 21 days. And after 21 days, and we started the refeeding of this this toxicated organism, feed toxicated organism along with the probiotic added feed at the rate of 0.1% per 100 gram feed. And after 7th day itself, we could be able to visualize there is a rejuvenation of this destroyed epithelial cell wall, epithelial layer, gastrointestinal epithelial layer, and it inferred that this a probiotic bacterium playing an important role in detoxification the toxic material which is entering into the gastrointestinal environment. In particular cases, it is involved playing an important role in detoxifying the cadmium which is entering into the gastrointestinal environment, and thereby it is nourishing the intestinal cell wall and improving their normal function. And we also want to find out whether this gastrointestinal epithelium has any role on stem cells. In association with the Department of Biotechnology of our university under Dr. Sudhakar team, and we did experimentation on the study of gastrointestinal microbes on proliferation of the stem cells, and through adapting an appropriate technology, and we injected a anti-mycotoxin solution. It is a combination of penicillin, streptomycin, and also the amphotericin, and we have prepared an anti-mycotic solution with 3 different components, and by injecting this at appropriate concentration, low as well as a high dose, we could be able to eliminate the gastrointestinal microbe at a lower level, and that ultimately lead to the reduction in the proliferation of the stem cells. In low concentration ovary as well as the testis, when we are injecting the low concentration of cells, when compared to that of the control group, in low concentration mycotoxin antibiotic injected group, and the number of stem cell was very less both in the testis and ovaries, and in the higher also there's no this stem cell was observed in higher concentration of mycotoxin in injected organisms. It indicated that the microbes which are colonized in the gastrointestinal environment, they are also responsible for this proliferation of stem cells in the various organs, in particular in ovary and testes, of this ornamental species. And overall, this probiotic bacterium and these pictures represent the overall beneficial effect of probiotics in aquaculture. Green arrow indicate the additive effect, red line indicated the inhibitory effect. As well as this additive effect is concerned, and it increase in antioxidant enzyme synthesis, and it is playing an important role in ALP, GCT, ALA, amylase, and trypsin increase levels were increased. It improves the digestion and growth, and it is also playing an important role and in synthesizing of T cell receptors, and it is also playing an important role in synthesis of cytokines, and it is also playing an important role in the macrophages activities and T cell proliferation. And this is a complementary C and C4 synthesis, and it is also involving in the various intestinal villi, proliferation of various intestinal villi. And if we is entering into the direct to the environment, it is improving the water quality parameters, and it is reducing the organic load which are accumulated in the aquaculture environment, and thereby it is reducing the organic load in the form of carbon dioxide. It is eliminated to the environment, and it is lowering the organic load. And this red line indicated that this and it is antagonistic effect against pathogenic fungi, pathogenic bacteria, pathogenic viruses, and also it is leading to the stress caused by the disease pathogenic microorganisms. And overall, this picture will give you an overall idea on what are the possible ways, starting from the digestion of physiology, and it is also involving an important role in regulation of various immunological parameters, and also it is playing an important role in the water quality and water quality management. And thus the gastrointestinal environment, in the gastrointestinal environment, various groups of microbes are colonized, and the probiotic bacteria or symbiotic bacteria which are successfully colonized in that environment exert the probiotic activities in the host system, inside the host system, and it is helping the host to lead a happy life and also the better production. In conclusion, fish gut microbes showed variation amongst species and also influenced by food, feeding behavior, and environmental variables. And not only this, and also the geographical variation is also influencing the diversity and composition as well as the metabolic process of the gastrointestinal microbes. Gut microbes having the probiotic characteristic could be effectively used as a proband for sustainable aquaculture. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Palasevam. That was it was a good presentation. We really appreciate the knowledge that you have acquired in the fish microbiota. I should say that these microbes have tremendous potential in improving the overall productivity of the fish. So now I would just read out a few questions which are from
Yes,
our
sir.
participants.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One of my our participants, Kajari Das, she is a very active participant. She has
Yeah.
asked whether you can culture them in anaerobic conditions since you are isolating it from the fish gut. So are you culturing them in aerobic or anaerobic conditions?
And this is the opportunistic this opportunistic macros. We are culturing it in the aerobic environment only, not anaerobic chambers. We are so far what I have narrated the story is pertain to the aerobic microorganism, not anaerobic microorganism.
All right, sir. So the second question is again from
Yeah,
Kajari. She says that
yeah.
how would you appreciate the technique of metagenomic studies for evaluating the types of bacterial species?
Yeah, yeah. Now this culturable organisms is very much confined. If we go for the metagenomic approach, we will get more in-depth knowledge. We can gain or we can gain more in-depth knowledge again the role played by the various microorganisms, various group of microorganisms. And if you see the total entire populations, and nearly about 20 to 20% of the population is the culturable populations, and that could be used by means of the conventional methods. If we adapt the metagenomic methods, still we can get more ideas that will throw light on the specific role played by the microorganisms on the host system. This approach is very good, sir.
Okay. Uh, so do you think that the organisms that we can use as a probiotic in fishes, they should
Yeah.
only be coming from the fish gut, or we can try some more organisms which are known for better enzyme productions? Can they also be used for as a probiotic to fish,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
okay,
my title is Fish Gut Microbes and Their Probiotic Efficiency. That is why I have confined my topic on fish gut microbes. And we can also use the microbes which are present in this aquaculture environment. And we can also use these microbes which can capable of producing this various enzymes and various product in a better way when compared to that of the resistant native microbes. But one thing we have to be very careful in the sense, and if we are taking a microbes which are colonized in the gastro-industrial environment or from the aquaculture system, that efficiency is will always on the upper hand when compared to that of the microbes we are using from either terrestrial source or from the other environment.
all right, sir. So once we we cultivate the microorganism on a commercial scale. So, in which form are you supplying it to the fish? Like you're mixing it with the
Yeah,
feed?
that's a important, very vital questions. And there are different modes. It can be used as a live viable culture, and it can be added along with the saline water, and it can be added along with this lyophilized form, and it can also used as this low cost probiotic powder. And earlier research and our research also indicated that irrespective of form of administration, and this efficiency is always at a better level.
All right, sir. So that's fine. So have you
Yeah, through
commercial?
feed. Apart from form of probiotics, what I narrated is the form. Either in the there's a live cells, there is a lyophilized cell, or low cost probiotic powder, or along with saline. And what we are calling it is the forms of probiotic. As a mode of probiotics, in the sense we can add it through medium, we can add it through feed, and we can enrich the live. There is a live feed organism. Through live feed organism also, and we can administrate probiotics into the host system. And whatever may be the form, whatever may be the mode, and this efficiency is always higher at a higher level. And this efficiency is mainly based upon the successful colonization of this particular probiotic microbes in the gastrointestinal environment.
That's good, sir. So have you been able to produce it at a commercial scale? Is it marketable product, or you are this technology
Yes,
is
sir.
still
I
in?
told you that is a MSU5, which we have isolated from the gastrointestinal environment of Serum Pinus monodon from the Kanyakumari this coastal area. And we have produced on the larger scale, we have produced the lyophilized powder in the form of kg. And now in association with the private industries, Amazing Biotech Private Limited, and we are using it as a commercial product.
So I really congratulate you for developing this technology, and you have taken it to the market. This is the aim of science. Like whatever we do in the lab should be transferred to the
Yeah,
society,
yeah,
and
market. Yeah.
yeah, and you have been successfully. You have done it.
Yes,
I
sir.
congratulate you. And
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
once again, on behalf of all the participants of this FTP program, we thank you for this wonderful presentation and sharing your findings with us. Thank you once again,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you, sir. Once again, I thank the organizer for giving me an opportunity to share my experience with the enthusiastic audience and also the other learned colleague and also the member various scientists involving in research in the area of physiology and in particular probiotic microbe. Thank you, one and all.